Hey everyone, I've been lurking here for a while, and after much deliberation, I've decided to share my own story. It's something I never imagined I'd be living through, but here I am. For context, I'm an office worker, your average Jane, married to what I thought was the love of my life, Mark. We've been married for a good few years, and like any marriage, we've had our ups and downs. But this story isn't just about my marriage. It's about what happened when I started developing feelings for someone I should have never even considered in that way. My boss, whom I'll refer to as Mr. D. My daily life was pretty routine. Wake up, kiss Mark goodbye, head to work, and immerse myself in endless spreadsheets and emails. I won't bore you with the details of my job, but let's just say it wasn't the highlight of my day. Mr. D, on the other hand, was someone who always managed to stir a sense of excitement within me. He was charismatic, engaging, and had a way of making even the dullest project seem interesting. I admired him, sure, but I never thought of it as anything more than professional admiration. Our interactions were strictly work-related, and for the longest time, that was enough. I had a supportive husband at home, a stable job, and a peaceful life. Or so I thought. Deep down, I knew something was missing. A spark, perhaps. Or maybe just a change from the monotony. But I brushed those thoughts aside, convincing myself that I was happy, that I had everything I needed. It wasn't until we landed a major project at work that things started to change. Mr. D assigned me to lead the project, which meant we'd be working closely together. I remember feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness, not knowing that this project would be the beginning of a journey that would turn my world upside down. As the project kicked off, Mr. D and I found ourselves in a whirlwind of meetings, late-night work sessions, and endless back and forths over email. It was during these moments that I began to see a different side of him. He wasn't just the boss anymore. He was a person with dreams, vulnerabilities, and a surprisingly good sense of humor. One evening, as we were wrapping up a particularly long session, he looked over at me and said, "You know, I've never seen anyone as dedicated as you. It's quite impressive." His tone was warm, his smile genuine. I felt my cheeks flush. "Well, when you have a great leader, it's easy to be dedicated," I replied, trying to sound casual, but feeling the tension in the air. He chuckled, shaking his head. "Always quick with a compliment, huh? But seriously, thank you. I don't think I could have handled this without you." As the days turned into weeks, our conversations started to drift away from work. We talked about our lives outside the office, our hopes, and even our disappointments. There was one evening, as we sat side by side, sorting through documents, when he shared something personal about his past that caught me off guard. I don't usually talk about this, but I went through a rough patch a few years ago. It was a dark time for me, but I learned a lot about myself, Mr. D confessed, his voice tinged with a vulnerability I hadn't witnessed before. Without thinking, I reached out, placing my hand over his. "I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it seems like you've come out stronger on the other side." He turned to look at me, his gaze intense, and in that moment, I felt a connection unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Our hands still touching, the air between us charged with an unspoken understanding, he whispered, "Thank you. It means a lot to me, more than you know." Our eyes locked, and for a split second, I thought he might lean in. My heart raced, my mind screamed that this was wrong, but part of me didn't want him to stop. Just as quickly, he pulled away, clearing his throat. "We should probably get back to work," he muttered, a hint of regret in his voice. The tension didn't dissipate after that night. If anything, it grew stronger, fueled by stolen glances, lingering touches, and conversations that strayed far from the realm of professional. I knew I was treading dangerous waters, risking everything I had with Mark. But there was something about Mr. D that I couldn't resist, a pull that I was powerless to fight against. At home, Mark began to notice the change in me. "You seem distant lately. Is everything okay?" he asked one evening, concern etched on his face. I forced a smile, feeling a pang of guilt. "Yeah, just tired from work. It's this project. It's been consuming all my time." Mark nodded, offering a supportive hug. "Just remember, I'm here for you, no matter what. As I returned his embrace, I couldn't help but feel like I was living a lie. The guilt was eating at me, but the thrill of my secret connection with Mr. D was intoxicating. I was caught in the middle, torn between my loyalty to Mark and the undeniable attraction I felt for another man. Little did I know, the situation was about to escalate, pushing me further down a path I never intended to go. The line between professional and personal had not just been crossed, it had been obliterated. Every meeting with Mr. D now carried an undercurrent of anticipation. Each email exchanged a veiled attempt to maintain a connection that we both knew had evolved far beyond work. It was a late Thursday evening when everything changed. The office had long since emptied, the quiet hum of the air conditioning filling the void left by our departing colleagues. We were reviewing the final details of our project alone, the tension between us palpable. "I think we've done everything we can for today," Mr. D finally said, closing his laptop with a sigh. "You've outdone yourself, as always." I smiled, feeling the weight of his gaze on me. "Thanks. It's been a lot of work, but I think it's paid off." There was a pause, heavy with unspoken words, before he spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "There's something I need to tell you." My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" He stood up, his movements deliberate as he closed the distance between us. Us. It's not just about the project, is it?" His eyes searched mine, seeking an answer to a question we had both been avoiding. I swallowed hard, unable to find my voice. The room felt unbearably hot, the air charged with a tension that demanded resolution. "I can't stop thinking about you," he admitted, his voice laced with a mixture of fear and desire. "And I get the feeling you feel the same." In that moment, every rational thought screamed at me to pull away, to end this before it went any further. But instead, I found myself drawn to him, my actions betraying my conscience. "Yes," I whispered, the admission tearing through me with a mix of relief and terror. And then he kissed me. It was a kiss that sealed our fates, a moment of surrender to the emotions we had been battling for weeks. The world outside ceased to exist, as we lost ourselves in the forbidden sweetness of the moment. It was reckless, it was wrong, but in that instant, none of that mattered. The aftermath of that kiss was a mix of euphoria and despair. We both knew the gravity of what we had done, the lines we had crossed. "What are we going to do?" I asked, the reality of our situation settling in like a cold shadow. Mr. D ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration and confusion. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know I don't want to give this up, not yet." And so, our affair began. Sneaked moments, secret rendezvous, the thrill of the forbidden intertwining with the constant fear of discovery. My heart was torn in two, caught between the stability and love I had with Mark, and the intoxicating, undeniable pull towards Mr. D. The guilt was an ever-present shadow, whispering reminders of the deception I was living. Every kiss, every stolen touch, was tinged with the bitter taste of betrayal. Yet I couldn't bring myself to end it. The connection between us felt too strong, too vital, as if we were two stars caught in each other's orbit, doomed to collide. As the weeks turned into months, the strain began to show. Lies and excuses became my new normal, each one driving a wedge further between Mark and me. I saw the confusion and hurt in his eyes, his attempts to bridge the growing distance between us, breaking my heart even as I continued to push him away. I was living a double life, and the pressure was mounting. It was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down around me, but I was too caught up in the whirlwind to see the storm approaching on the horizon. The web of lies and secrecy I had woven around myself began to unravel in a way I never anticipated. It was a Wednesday morning, one that started like any other, but fate had a different plan in store. I arrived at work to find an unusual tension in the air, whispers echoing through the halls that stopped abruptly as I passed. Confusion and a sense of foreboding settled over me as I made my way to my desk, only to find an envelope with my name on it, no indication of who it was from. Inside was a single sheet of paper, and as I unfolded it, my heart sank. It was a photo. A photo of Mr. D and me in a compromising embrace, captured during one of our secret rendezvous. There was no note, no demands, just the silent threat hanging heavy between the lines. Someone knew. Panic set in as I considered the implications. The photo was proof of our indiscretion, something that could destroy my marriage, my career, and Mr. D's reputation. I had to find him, had to figure out what to do next. Rushing to his office, I found it empty, a stark contrast to the chaos storming inside me. I waited, minutes stretching into what felt like hours, until finally he appeared. The look on his face told me he already knew. "We need to talk," I said, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. He nodded, closing the door behind us. "I know about the photo. It's been sent to several people, not just you." The reality of our situation hit me like a tidal wave. "What are we going to do?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. But before he could answer, the unexpected happened. The door burst open, and in walked Mark, my Mark, but not the Mark I knew. Beside him was a woman I recognized from the office, her face a mask of triumph and malice. "Surprise," Mark said, the word dripping with a bitterness that chilled me to the bone. "Did you really think you could play me for a fool?" The woman smirked, stepping forward. "And you," she directed her gaze at me, "thought you could steal someone else's life without any consequences." Confusion swirled within me. "Mark, what is this? What's going on?" He laughed, a sound devoid of any warmth I remembered. "Oh, come on. Did you think I wouldn't find out? That I wouldn't notice the woman I married slipping away from me?" His eyes hardened. "I've known about your little affair for months, and her," he gestured to the woman, "she's been helping me expose you for what you truly are." The revelation struck me like a physical blow. This was his revenge, a plan meticulously crafted to expose the affair in the most public and humiliating way possible. My legs felt weak, my heart shattered, not just by the betrayal, but by the realization of the depth of Mark's pain and anger. "I wanted you to feel a fraction of the hurt you've caused me," Mark said, his voice low and controlled. "Consider this my parting gift." The room spun as the implications of his words sank in. My marriage was over, my reputation in tatters, and the career I had worked so hard for was now hanging by a thread. All because I had allowed myself to be swept up in a moment of weakness, a fleeting connection that had cost me everything. Mr. D remained silent, the gravity of our shared mistake finally dawning on him. There were no words that could undo the damage, no apologies that could mend the broken trust. As Mark turned to leave, the finality of the situation enveloped me. The affair, the lies, the photo, all of it had led to this moment of reckoning. I was left to pick up the pieces of a life I had irrevocably changed, facing the consequences of choices made in the shadows. In the weeks that followed, the fallout of my actions unfolded with ruthless clarity. The affair, once a secret harbored in the shadows, had become the center of a storm that left no part of my life untouched. The repercussions were swift and merciless. My marriage to Mark ended in a divorce that was as cold and efficient as a corporate transaction. My career, once a source of pride and accomplishment, now felt like walking through a minefield, with whispers and judgmental glances accompanying my every move. Mr. D and I, bound together by our shared mistake, found ourselves adrift in the aftermath. The connection that once seemed undeniable now felt like a chain linking us to the ruins of what we had caused. He resigned, a decision that sent ripples through the office and marked the end of our interactions. Our affair had cost us both dearly, a stark reminder that some lines, once crossed, redraw the map of our lives in indelible ink. In the midst of this turmoil, I embarked on a journey of self-reflection. The solitude that once terrified me became a sanctuary, a place to confront the truths I had avoided. I had betrayed the trust of those I loved, acted selfishly, and in doing so, I had lost everything that once defined me. The path to redemption was not through denying these truths, but in accepting them, learning from them. I started attending counseling, a space where I could unravel the complexities of my decisions and their impact. It was there, in the midst of raw, unfiltered self-examination, that I began to understand the depth of my mistakes and the possibility of growth that comes from owning them. One day, as I sat in the quiet aftermath of a session, my phone buzzed with a message from an unexpected sender, Mark. My heart stopped, memories of our shared life flooding back, tinged with the pain of our parting. With a trembling hand, I opened the message. I've been doing a lot of thinking. I'm not ready to forgive, and I may never be, but I wanted you to know I'm moving on. I hope, in time, you can do the same. Goodbye. Mark's message, though far from a reconciliation, was a closure of sorts. It was an acknowledgement of our shared past and a mutual acceptance of our separate futures. In his words, I found the strength to let go, not just of him, but of the guilt and self-recrimination that had been my constant companions. Months turned into a year, and with each passing day, the pieces of my new life began to take shape. I found a new job, a fresh start in a place where the shadows of my past didn't reach. It was a chance to rebuild, to prove to myself that I could be more than my mistakes. The affair and its fallout had been a crucible, transforming me in ways I had never anticipated. I learned the hard way the importance of integrity, the value of trust, and the strength it takes to face the consequences of our actions. My journey from the depths of betrayal to the tentative steps towards redemption was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As I sit here now, sharing my story, I do so not as a cautionary tale, but as a narrative of hope. Hope that even in our darkest moments, there is a path forward, a chance for redemption, and the possibility of finding peace within the chaos we create. The end of my story is not marked by a return to the life I once knew, but by the beginning of a new chapter, one written with the lessons learned from the past. It's a bittersweet ending, yes, but also a starting point for a future where the mistakes of yesterday are the wisdom of tomorrow. Thank you for listening, for being a part of this journey. Remember, it's never too late to change the course of your story, to find strength in vulnerability, and to move forward, one step at a time, towards a brighter horizon.